Hey everyone, welcome to the United States Karate Academy podcast. I'm Noah Ash and I'm one of our instructors here. And today I'm joined by Master Salvador Convento. He is a fourth degree black belt and master in Tong Soo Do, former Naval Academy graduate, two-time world champion, and author, business owner. And yeah, sir, thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is kind of cool. Different, different.
It's a good start, right? Let's start at the very beginning then. So you were born in the Philippines, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which region of the Philippines?
Right there in the heart of it all, Manila. Right in Manila.
So what was early life like? What did all that look like? How many siblings did you have?
I come from a big family, six brothers, six sisters.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm the 13th child, so that's why my favorite number is 13.
And you're the youngest of them
Yeah,
all?
I'm lucky 13.
Wow.
And in the Philippines, you don't know how life is. You're a kid, and life was fun and enjoyable, and you don't realize how poor you are until you go to another country like America. But my favorite time as a kid was my mom and dad had a mango coconut plantation,
Okay.
and I guess once or twice a year we would go harvest the mango. And my idea was climbing up the mango tree and eating it all up, you know. But that was like my favorite childhood story, it just brought you back to um the essence of what it's like, with being a family and stuff like
Were
that.
you guys a close family? I mean, 13 kids, that's a
Oh yeah.
lot. You guys really close?
Yeah, we lived in this one small house in Manila, Quezon City, and we were all packed in like sardines, probably, I don't know, maybe a one bedroom, maybe apartment. And we had no running, or we had a running water, but it was all cold.
Right.
No flushing toilet. When we had to take a shower, we had to use this thing called a tabo. And it's like you gotta put it over your head, and it
Sure.
was cold. And
Yeah.
then we all like slept together like sardines, and but
Wow.
you don't know any different. So
Right, right.
um, we had childhood friends, and I remember my first toy that we played was like a stick, and I came up with a game that basically we were all trying to say, hey, if you can go from this point to that point, and you drop the stick by yelling, and then you win, right? And that was our game,
Keep
but
it simple.
it was just fun, and I still have this childhood mark from it because I fell trying to win first place, and I still have this little dark thing in my knee. But
Oh my
fun times,
goodness.
not like how it is today with all these expensive toys and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point, so you're growing up in the Philippines, at what point did you guys make the move to the United States?
Yeah, that's a really cool question because my brother, he was the first one that actually he joined from the Philippines as an enlisted guy. And you may or may not know, but supposedly the people who joined from the Philippines were all college graduates, and they were, I guess, the top 1% of the Philippines. And my brother, I guess, happened to be very smart.
How much older was this brother than you?
Yeah, my brother, he's about to turn 80, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
about to turn 80 this November 15th. So his name is Bert, and I call him our Christopher Columbus, literally. He discovered America. And but we're
That's funny.
happy. We're grateful because I wouldn't be talking to you and all of those accolades that you mentioned if it wasn't for him. So he joined the Navy and came to America, and then he petitioned my mother, who then petitioned my sister, and then my sister petitioned all my brothers and sisters, and it was like the biggest change in our life. When you say that America is the land of opportunity, it is. It was really cool. Yeah.
Very cool. And so was this before you were born that he left the
Yeah.
Philippines?
Actually, I don't know. Maybe shortly thereafter, because
Okay.
I was born in 72, and so I don't know when he joined the Navy, but good question. But I came here in 81,
81. Okay.
um, and I remember going back to we he was stationed in Philly, I think, and so we got stationed here, and I remember, and that's where my first dream actually came about. So it was me and my brother Bernard, and We were flying on 747 jumbo jet Northwest, and we were all suited up. We looked like executives, but it was kind of funny. We
Nice.
had this huge passport that has all of our passport information. I didn't know one word of English, and I think the only word I knew, I think my sister told me because I was asking her like, "What do I do if I have to go to the bathroom?" And she said to me, just ask the lady bathroom. And so, so I said, yeah, I remember going in the plane going, bathroom, bathroom,
Wow.
but, this is where my first dream came out. So I'm going in the plane and I'm in awe and I'm like, holy cow, this is a huge plane, right? And and I remember when it was about to take off and all that shaking and stuff like that, and I was excited, not nervous, And I remember thinking to myself the first time, and I said, "Wow, how cool would it be to fly one of these things?" That's when it was.
A bit of foreshadowing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the first time that I was like, one day I want to be a pilot.
Very cool. So that was the first time that aviation was introduced to you then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was the first time I went on a plane. It's the first time I went anywhere. And it was really a cool experience. I remember taking off and I sat, I guess, next to the wing, and I'm like, "Hey, are we going anywhere?" Because this wing is still here. And yeah, I remember, man, how does a huge chunk of metal fly through the air like that? That's incredible. And it's one of those things, as a kid, you have this imagination. You're like, wow, that's pretty wild how something like that can happen. And that was the beginning of my first goal to fly.
So then these first few years in the United States, I guess you were 9 years old when you came.
Eight. I was eight. It was back in March 1981.
Okay. And so you started school right away. Were you there for a
Yeah.
little bit?
So we landed in Philly, and so we're in South Philadelphia in this neighborhood, and so I go to third grade, and I remember my first few days, I didn't know how to speak English, so I had to do ESOL, English as a second language. And I remember my first few days, I was crying to my brothers and sisters and my mom. I was like, I don't know how to speak English, you know. Can we go back to the Philippines? That kind of stuff. And then yeah, it was kind of frustrating at first, and then you pick it up. I mean, fortunately, I was only eight, and so I had American friends who I would play with. We would start playing handball and little baseball games and little suicides is what we call them, where you throw at each other. And so you start to learn to speak English. You just get immersed with all of that stuff, and so I started learning, and the crying went away.
Yeah. So you guys had a small apartment that you lived together then? Like all of you guys back in one apartment?
Yeah, it was funny when we came to America. We now have flushing toilet, and I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." We had a washer and dryer, we had a hot shower, and we had a car. So I said, "Man, we are rich,"
Right.
And it's funny. You only have comparisons when you compare yourself living in the Philippines and then living in America. And we were like low, not even middle class. We were probably in the lower part of the middle class, if at all. And I remember going, man, bro, we are rich,
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it was a cool experience. And yeah, it was neat to see that transition, having a car and living in America. And I always say, it's so true. It's the land of opportunity, and you have to take advantage of it. I surely did. Yeah.
So I gotta know then, your first like Philadelphia winter. Can you remember those like
Oh yeah.
super cold snow, first time seeing snow?
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of neat. I remember that and having snow fall, and you're like, "What is this? Is this ice? How is that possible?" And yeah, it was neat. And I don't like the cold very much, but it was just a neat experience to be able to see that happening. And yeah, you just adapt to the situation.
Yeah. And then you started playing baseball at what point? Like, when did you realize that baseball was something that you were really into?
Yeah, that was at age 10, and it was really funny. My nephew Gil and I, we used to hang out a lot, and
Was he similar age at that time?
yeah,
Okay.
he's about my age, maybe a little year younger than me. So for some reason, we got to playing baseball, and so we were part of the Raiders, and this was the 10 to 12 years old, and I've never played baseball in my life, and so I don't know. The coach just said, "Hey, pitch or play third base and play shortstop." And so I just started playing, and I guess I had really good hand-eye coordination, and and I used to be the pitcher, and I used to have this really cool wicked curveball.
Nice. Oh
And
yeah.
I remember the ball would come in this way and it would curve to the left and people would
Get the
jump
batter to
out
jump. Oh yeah.
and then struck out a lot of batters and things like that. And then so it was my first taste in sport, and I think the best thing I learned about that is the whole teamwork aspect of sports and how it can build your confidence and relying on each other from teamwork. It was really cool. And one of the coolest experiences from that first year, I remember my coach coming to me at the end of the year and he's like, "Sal, I need to tell you something." I'm like, "What's that, coach?" And he goes, "Come here. I think you're going to win something at our end of the year awards banquet." I'm like, "Oh, yeah? What is that?" He's like, "You're going to win Rookie of the Year." And I'm like, "What is that?" and, and he's like, "You're the best of all the rookies." And so so that builds your confidence. And so all these little things that come along the way, whether it's martial arts, when someone that's older than you, a coach, a mentor, tells you something, it builds you up, and it's cool. And yeah, it was a really cool experience. And I still remember something funny. But so we went to my brother-in-law was the one that took me, and we were all in a suit and stuff. Now, mind you, this is in Philadelphia, so it's all Italian neighborhood and things like that. So we're having the banquet, and it's our turn for us to get our awards, and all of these guys are Italian. They're like Joey Buttafuoco won this, and Santorini this, and all these Italian names. And then they're like, "Yeah, and we have this new kid. Um, and he's a special kid, and he's gonna win Rookie of the Year, and his name is Sal Convento." So all the guys are like, "Oh, it's another Italian! It's
Yeah,
another
yeah.
Italian!"
Oh my
And I
gosh.
come up there, I'm like,
I'm not an Italian.
that guy doesn't look Italian. People are looking at me like he doesn't look Italian. So one of these guys come up and they're like, hey, Sal, hey, come here." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he's like, "Hey, Convento, is that Italian?" And I'm like, "No, sir." "What is that?" And he's like, "I'm Filipino." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, you're okay in my book. Congratulations." It was funny. But so yeah, it was really cool to be able to play baseball, and I ended up playing it throughout my whole little league, high school, and coaching or being part of my high school baseball team, and that work ethic with my coach in baseball. You learn a lot about hard work, and so I was fortunate again to be skilled, but I also worked hard at it. And so it was a proud moment for me to become like the captain of the baseball team and the lead team and things like that. And I was their best pitcher, and I wasn't really the best one, but I was their best. Sure. But yeah, we had a high school of like 200 kids. And so there's not a lot to pick from, but we were always in the playoffs, and it was fun, and it was just that whole camaraderie thing that was a cool thing about it.
That's a cool success story to go from never playing to just picking up and
Yeah,
going.
so fortunately, I was lucky to have some natural skills, but I think the natural skills with hard work is key. Look at it like Michael Jordan, who had natural talents, but he worked his buns off, and that's what we like to instill. Absolutely. Yeah.
Then what point did martial arts enter the picture? How did that
Yeah.
come about? Like, run us through this.
I was 13 at the time, and my brother Bernard and his friend, he was interested in trying it out. It was like a neighborhood martial arts place at 7th and Oregon, and 709 Oregon, and it was called Shin Karate Institute. It was named after Jaishul Shin, who happens to be the founder of the World Tung Soo Association, and he was the one that taught Chuck Norris way back in Korea when he was an officer there. So everybody knows Chuck Norris. But yeah, so that's where he taught. Chuck Norris came to America. He wanted to expand and spread martial arts, Tung Soo, to as many people as possible. And so we joined that studio, and you don't know at the time how cool it is. And so it was me, my brother, and his friend, and they had a special that if the third person joins, it's for free, kind of like what we're doing now, right? So yeah, I still remember doing that. It was on the second floor, and I still remember my first few lessons of the basic, your stances, going in and out, doing your basic kicks and things like that. And it was 2 hours long, and they didn't have heat, they didn't have AC. So when it was hot, it was real hot. And when it was cold, it was real cold. And it was awesome in that pure, it was just pure physical martial arts, like real beat down martial arts, traditional martial arts. So much so that back then it was just no sparring gear, no cups, no nothing.
Right. I mean, that's
It
like
was
the
like bare fists.
yeah, it's like the grassroots beginning of martial arts in the United States. Like
Yeah.
that's very cool that you were
Yeah.
a part of that. Wow.
Yeah, it was a really wild experience, and I never thought I would be doing it till this age, and but that laid the baseball laid the foundation of like team sports and camaraderie and all of that stuff, relying on that. But the martial arts really built the foundation of my success, I believe. Right.
Right. And so you would practice. So baseball was, I'm guessing, seasonal,
Yes.
and but martial arts was throughout the year. Then
Oh
you could do
yeah,
it all.
just like how it is now. Martial arts is an all year round sports or lifestyle or way of life.
Sure.
And so that was, and here's my transition from baseball to martial arts. I remember in baseball, as you know, you played. You go to a tournament, you may win one trophy, right? Or you may win one rookie of the year, right? And so I remember going to my first karate tournament, and I was, I think, a green belt, and I lost, and I literally cried to my mom like,
Yeah.
oh,
And you were like
oh.
14 at the
Yeah, I
time,
was like,
15
yeah,
maybe.
14, and I cried, and I lost, and I was like, oh man, mom, I can't believe I lost. But here's the difference. When you lose, you learn a lot, and it reveals who you really are, right? So I still remember that, and I was like, whoa, what do I do now? I didn't want to quit. So a lot of people, moms and dads with their sons and daughters, would look at someone who's crying at you, and it's hard, right? You're like, man, my son's crying, or my daughter's crying. But that's when your true character is revealed. You're like, are you gonna go back and fight back? So I remember my brother and I um, going right after, and we just kept going like every day, Monday through Friday and Saturday, 2 hours a day. And then I remember we went to that next karate tournament, and I think, I don't know, I didn't win all first place, but I won like three trophies. And I was like, oh my God, I got three trophies in one karate tournament when it would take a whole year to win one trophy in baseball. I'm switching over. So it was really cool. And so that's what got me. And I think another experience in my early thing of starting in martial arts, I remember my brother and I, we were walking because we couldn't afford a car, and we would take the bus. And so we were walking down the bad neighborhood of Philly. It was 10th and Oregon, and there was a bunch of kids, neighborhood kids, that were there. And, we weren't, I guess, socially aware at the time. We were just learning martial arts. We were white belts. And these young high school teenagers were they hang out, they drink and stuff like that. And my brother was older than me. He was probably 17 at the time, and I was 13. And these guys were looking at us, and in hindsight, we should have just crossed the street, but we were just like, okay, we're just gonna pass by. We're just passing by, and they were like, "Hey, Chinese or Chinks," which was Chinese people, and they're like, "Hey, Chinks, what are you doing in our neighborhood?" And we're like, "Oh man, we're gonna get in trouble here." And so I was like a little runt, and so my brother was like way taller than me. So I remember this one white kid. He comes up, "What are you doing in my neighborhood?" And we were just trying to walk past, trying to ignore him. And the head leader guy was, I guess, agitated because we were walking in their neighborhood. And he like punches my brother in the face, knocks him down. And I was a little kid, so they didn't punch me or anything like that. But I remember that day, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is this is pretty bad." And I think there was maybe five kids, five teenagers, and that's when it became real that martial arts is something that you could really use to defend yourself. And so from that point on, with the martial arts tournaments and things like that, we just kept training every day, Monday through Saturday, 2 hours a day. We didn't care. We were just, that's not going to happen again. And so it takes some kind of a little bit of a traumatic experience uh, for something to change and to switch and say, I'm going to be so damn good at martial arts that no one's going to mess with me.
Yeah.
So
You guys were really driven then after that.
even more driven than ever before. You know, we were just kind of thinking it as, oh, it's a sport, karate, Bruce Lee, that kind of stuff. But when someone punches your brother, you're like, dude, I need to defend the next time it ever happens. So we had a higher level of purpose. This was not just, oh, let's do fun karate. Little Johnny's gonna have fun. Look, it's so cute. So we had a purpose for why we needed to train. And I think having that purpose when you're training or whatever it is, it defines you. Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So growing up, having, a relatively challenging experience in Philadelphia, it sounds like, but a good one and filled with lessons. Let's say you're 16, 17 now and you're thinking, what's next? So you're getting close to graduating high school. What was in the picture?
So the martial arts and baseball became my life. It was playing baseball and martial arts whenever I'm not in the playoffs and things like that. And my mother and dad were always there for me, so that's pretty cool.
And they were both in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were always supportive of me and things, me and my brother. And so I remember in ninth grade, um, I used to watch Good Morning America with Joan London, and I would eat breakfast. My mom would make me tea and breakfast every morning with me and my brother eating. And I would just be eating and watching Good Morning America before I would, go to school. And then the Naval Academy came up, and and they had this wonderful episode about this admiral who joined the Naval Academy, and then his son joined the Naval Academy, and then his son's son joined the Naval Academy, and they're in their whatever fourth generation of Naval Academy guys. And I'm like, what is this Naval Academy all about? And so she was talking about how it's, the best of the best goes there, and you needed a congressman, and and that it's a free education. And I'm like, free? What? Free? And then they were talking about the types of jobs that you got and things like that. And so that was the first time I've heard of the Naval Academy, and it really rang in me to say, that's where I want to go.
And so at this point, your brother, who was in the Navy,
Yeah,
was
my
he
oldest brother.
out of the Navy
Yeah,
at this point?
yeah,
Like
he was
that's
already
okay.
out.
So he wasn't influencing your
No,
like at all.
no, not at all. He
Interesting.
didn't say anything about joining the Navy or anything like that. I knew he did, but he wasn't talking to me about joining the Navy or anything. It was literally Joe in London, Good Morning America, and you know how awesome it is to get in there, how tough it is to get in there, how tough it is to get out of there. And I remember that in ninth grade, my ninth grade teacher was saying to me, hey, now that you guys are in ninth grade, forward yourself 4 years from now. Where do you want to go to school? What college you want to go to? And I remember Naval Academy.
Wow. And so that application process, you went ahead and did it, and you got a congressman to sponsor you, I
long
guess, right?
story, but so you know, you go through the whole 4 years in high school and things like that. So I had everything. It was all lined up and all that stuff. But when I went to GAMP, Girard Academic Music Program, I had a counselor who has never had anybody who went there, right? And I remember him being negative. Yeah. Yeah, he was like, Naval Academy? You want to go in there? That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't listen to people who are naysayers, right? So, yeah, and he's like, Naval Academy, that's really tough. But yeah, he was not very supportive and he didn't know what to expect. But I got all the you know, all of the things that you needed to do, and it was the first I was the first one who was ever been interested. And I had everything, and I think the Naval Academy called me and I was accepted. And then they said, so who is your congressman, your senator, who's going to be sponsoring you? And I'm like, what do you mean I need a congressman, senator, and all that stuff? He's like, yeah, you need one who's sponsoring you. And I'm like, I didn't know that. So I didn't get in as the class of 95 because of that. So I had to go.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then they said, well, try again next year, get a congressman. And so I did. And I got Congressman Foglietta, an Italian guy, right, who sponsored me. And I still remember that day. It was really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was like I got this letter, and I remember my family was like so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming from the Philippines to, playing with a stick as your first toy, then now like, wow, making it to the Naval Academy.
We were so happy. We were like, whoa, this is like winning the lottery. And I cry because it was really cool. Like the first guy to like graduate from the United States. So it was really neat to go through that experience. And they were so happy for me.
Yeah.
I was happy, but they were even happier.
Man, what a blessing that your family
It was really
was
cool.
so engaged as well.
It was really cool.
Awesome. Well, why don't we take a quick break? We'll make it a quick notice, and we'll be back in a second. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and if you like what you see, let us know down in the comments. If you're interested in training with us and would like 2 weeks for free, follow the link to our website down in the description below.